Hello, good evening, friends. This is Adeal Rizvi, and I welcome you to today's webinar on 26th of November. Sorry, I'm still in October in my mind, but we are in November now. So I welcome you to the webinar where we are talking about a very, very hot topic. It's always the hottest topic in Australian property landscape, regardless of which way the market is going, and that is property auctions. And as a property buyer, how you can succeed at a property auction without overpaying. That's absolutely essential. You don't have to overpay at an auction. And today I'll be discussing all those strategies that we have been using with our clients, which you can use and employ directly as well if you're looking to buy your next family home. So if you're looking to upsize, downsize, or your first home buyer, it applies to all of you and it can help you in every kind of situation if you follow the tricks that I'll be sharing with you. All these strategies that I'm sharing, all these tips that I'm sharing are based on a lot of experience with buying with our clients in different states, in different budgets, and in different circumstances. So let's dive into it. I'm really, really keen to share some of those tips. It should be really fun and interesting. If you have joined us live, if you're watching us live right now, please let us know. Leave us a comment down there. Say hello. Let you know you are there. And also post your questions, please. The most important bit. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us your feedback. Post your questions. Those questions can be around auctions. They can be around anything else in the property space. But please hit that comment button down there. Whether you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, wherever you are, let us know your feedback and keep coming in with questions. So before we start, a very quick financial disclaimer, which is right on the screen right now. So any information which we are presenting in today's webinar is purely generic in nature and does not take into account your specific and personal situation. So there is no financial, legal, or tax advice that we are providing today, just like all other webinars that we do. Please make sure that you seek your independent professional advice before deciding to act on any information presented or discussed today. The information that we are discussing today may or may not be applicable to you based on your personal situation. So be very, very careful, do your own due diligence before using any of the information, because what we are discussing today is based on other people's situations. It can be generic as well. But again, I'm sure that some of these tips can really help you if they apply to you, right? So why do people fear auctions? What is the problem with auctions? Let's dive further into it, right? So I used to be fearful of auctions when I first started buying properties several years ago. And I can feel your fear as well if you're buying your very first property or you're buying property after a gap of, let's say, 5 years. The market has moved and you don't know how the market is behaving. So it's okay to be fearful at buying at auction. But the three key reasons why we have found that people keep failing at auctions, and they also keep coming to us, a lot of them, where they need help, is primarily because they don't want to overpay for a property, which means they essentially don't know what the true market value for that property is, right? And that is what we'll be addressing today, how you can figure out a true market value of the property before you even go to the auction. Thanks for the comment, guys. Yes, I'm also excited to share how you guys can win at auction. So thanks for your feedback over there. And unfortunately, I can't see the name for some reason on this platform, but thanks very much for your comment. And other thing is that people think that auction is something that only happens on the day. So they don't want to, they shouldn't be preparing for it in advance. They should just turn up on the auction and try to bid. That's the biggest mistake. That is the last thing you want to do, because that is exactly how people get emotional and they overpay for a property because they haven't done any homework. So the second key point is you don't have any preparation before the actual day of the auction. And last but not the least, because you haven't prepared anything, that is when you turn up on the auction, you don't have any game plan, you don't have any strategy, you don't even know how to bid, how do your increments look like, where should you be standing, how should you judge other buyers, how should you read their emotions, and how you should actually take advantage of other people being anxious at auctions. Because remember, and I'll probably mention it again moving forward as well, if you are emotional, at an auction as a buyer, the seller is at least 10 times more emotional than yourself, because in most of the auctions, the sellers are actually selling their family home, especially in Sydney and Melbourne markets, where the auction is the norm. People are selling their family home. They have been living in there for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They have raised their families. They have a big attachment to that home. It's not just brick and mortar for them. There are feelings. There is associated cost. If it doesn't sell the way they want it to sell, that can shatter families. And they have plans after selling that property as well, which they want to accomplish. May not only be financial plans, there can be other family plans around it as well. People want to probably upsize. They're probably looking to downsize after selling this property. There can be huge kind of plans. They may be moving interstate, or they may be having to move into a different area altogether. So auction is much more emotional for a seller as compared to a buyer. Always remember that. And as a buyer, you need and can prepare for an auction. So these are the three mistakes or three reasons why people may fail and do fail at auctions. How can we turn it around? How can we make it better for us as property buyers? So the first thing is we need to know our budget, and we need to know the real property value, right? I'll talk about these two things right at the beginning, how you can figure out property value before even you attend the auction, right? Secondly, you have to prepare early. Usually an auction listing is live for 4 weeks before the actual auction day. So it will be live for 3 or 4 weeks, and then the auction day happens. Your preparation for the auction starts in the very first week of when the property is shown on real estate or domain. Let's say you are browsing on real estate or domain.com. You're looking to buy maybe in Northwest Sydney or lower North Shore or any other parts of the country, and you find a property which you really like, which will be probably going to auction on, let's say, 14th of December, which is still 3 weeks away from now, right? Now, you have to start preparing for that from today, which is 26th of November. And how you will prepare that, I will show you now, because that's how you get ahead of the game. And once you prepare in advance, you will exactly know what you have to do on the day of the auction. You won't be nervous. You will have a game plan ready, and you will be much better placed than other emotional buyers. And you will know how to knock them off, okay? So how do we go about our business? Let's get into it. The first point, how do you know your budget, and how do you know the real property value? So I have a lot of notes to go through. I'll be rushing through them quickly. If you have any feedback, thank you, Lachlan, for joining us. I would love to share my insights. Thank you so very much for joining us today, and lovely to see you tonight, mate. And the first thing is, how do you know your budget and property value? And just like Lachlan, who's also a mortgage broker, your preparation for auction starts by talking to your mortgage broker, understanding your numbers, understanding what you can borrow, but more importantly, whatever you can borrow. Let's say you can borrow $2 million, right? Or you can borrow $3 million, or whatever the amount may be. That does not mean that you should really bid at auction up to that value. Your budget of 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, whatever it is a different thing versus the true property value. These are two different things, and you need to really understand that as a buyer. That will prevent you from being emotional at an auction, right? So you understand with the broker what you're borrowing is, how much money you can borrow, what your repayments would look like. Yes, you can borrow 2 million, 3 million, but whether you can afford those repayments for the next 3 to 5 years, because you are making a big term commitment. And not just your repayments. If the interest rates are sitting at 6% or thereabouts for the next 3 years, let's say, or 4 years, I know they will drop down potentially. But again, you have to prepare for the worst case. You also have other costs. You also have council contributions. You will have your insurances. You will have property maintenance. If you're buying a property with a pool, you will have that cost coming to you as well as an owner-occupier, as you will be living in the property. So you will have to consider all these numbers while you're doing your cash flow analysis when you're speaking to your broker. Once you have that clarity that you are good to afford that particular property for the next 3 to 5 years, that should give you enough peace of mind to move to the next step. Now, the second step is really need to understand what the true property value is. And the true property value is not what the real estate agent is telling you, but the true property value is what the similar properties have been selling in that local area in the last 3 to 6 months. So you have to understand what other properties have been selling with similar features. Let's say if you're looking for a 4-bed, 2-bath house, let's say on a 180 or 200 square meter covered area on a 600 square meter lot, then what other properties for similar kind of specifications are selling in the neighborhood of that property in the last 3 to 6 months. And for that, you have to go to realestate.com. You have to go to other platforms as well. And to make it easier for you, I have shared the video in the comments. So if you just look in the comments below, there's a link already shared where I did that video few months ago, actually, where I talked about how you can find the real market value for the property you want to buy. And that video applies to auctions as well as non-auction scenarios. So that video is there. It's in the comments. If you're watching it on YouTube, LinkedIn, or on Facebook, you can check out the comments. You should be able to find that video. If you can't, let us know, and we will inbox it directly to you. So that video will help you find the right value for the property so that you know what's the true value and how far you should be going in your bidding on the day of the auction. That is the first thing. A lot of people leave it till the last day, but that is the first thing you need to figure out. And let's say if you're looking to buy a property worth 2.2 million and you can afford a property up to 2.5 mil, perfect. That is how it should be. You should be able to afford a higher property price, and the actual property value should be lower than that so that you don't have surprises later on. So that's one tip, and that's kind of obvious as well. But please check out that video we have in the comment section so that you can know how to figure out the right property value. That property value, once you have figured it out, the most important thing it will tell you is what is your walk away price. What I mean by that is, what is the last price at which your bidding will stop? Regardless of what others are willing to pay, you would know that, yes, this property is worth 2.2 mil and my bidding will stop at 2.2 mil. If someone comes and pays extra $5,000, I will not regret it anymore because I don't want to overpay, right? So you have that number in your mind even 2-3 weeks before the actual day of the auction. And that number, the walkaway price, will also help you to actually start calling the real estate agent and start talking to them. And that is the second step where you are actually doing your prep before the auction date, which is our second step now. And I'll come to it in a minute, where now before the auction, you can call the agent, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the auction, and say, you're looking to buy a property. Yes, the agent will never reveal the actual market value of the property. They will never reveal the reserve price. But what you know, the true market value is. And that is where the second step becomes really important, because now you know that property is worth 2.2 mil as per our example. So you can ask the question to the agent, is the owner looking to take offers before the auction? Sometimes they may be looking to take offers. That is what our experience has been. A lot of times they will wait for the day of the auction. But if the campaign of the auction is not going well, because think from the seller's point of view, the reason they are going for auction is they want a lot of bidding war on the auction day. They want 10 bidders, 20 bidders fighting out for that property, right? Now, if you are nice and early and letting the real estate agent know that you are keen for that property and you have your numbers lined up well, you don't have to tell what the market value is for the property. That's not the point over here. But if you are keen and if you're calling the agent as part of the preparation, as part of the prep before the actual auction, you are communicating to them that you are a serious buyer. And let's say if the other buyers who are potentially waiting for the last week before they turn up and call the agent already knows that you are calling them every week, trying to make an offer, and you are serious and you have your pre-approval in place. So you have been telling all these things to the agents where you are actually creating that trust in their mind that you are a serious buyer. You are here, you mean business, and you will not just waste their time. So like any other non-auction buying, even in auctions, what we have found is if you are really keen and talking to the agents, keeping in touch with them, asking the right questions, you will really start building that rapport with them, where now they will know that you are serious. And potentially, if they don't have enough competition, if they don't have enough interest in that property, let's say a week before the auction, they still don't have more than 2 or 3 registered bidders, or let's say 2 days before the auction, there are only a couple of people who have registered for the auction. That is where the selling agent will more likely come to you, give you a call, and try to see if you want to make an offer according to the reserve price, where you can reserve that property pre-auction. Because the last thing a selling agent wants to do is that they turn up on the auction day and they only have 1 or 2 bidders standing over there. It doesn't happen all the time, but on occasions it can happen as well. So you have to really be able to cash in. And the way you can cash in is by being in contact with real estate agents early and communicating to them that you have the right pre-approval, you have the right deposit sitting over there, and you really like the property and you want to go ahead. So that communication with the agents can really help you if the vendor decides to sell the property pre-auction. Okay, if you're buying some property which is as an like an investment for you, you can also offer the option of a rent back. That this property, yes, we are buying it, but we can rent it back to you if you want to live in there. A lot of vendors would actually take that option, especially in some of the markets where rental properties are really hard to find, right? So you can offer that option as well. You can also ask the agent if the vendor is looking for a longer settlement or a shorter settlement, because that way what you are doing is you are being flexible and trying to show and communicate that you are willing to work with the seller's terms as well. Again, if you can't afford to go for a longer settlement, don't bring it up, right? But if you know that you can go for a longer 90-day settlement, let's say, or 120-day settlement, you can always bring it up and ask the question from the agent, will the vendor look for a longer settlement? And if they say yes, that is where you're positioning yourself to make an offer and buy the property even before the day of the auction itself, right? Again, usually it doesn't happen, but 1 out of 10 times it can happen as well. So be prepared for that. Okay. Now, once you have all these things in place, we have had occasions, we have also got to hear from the agents that the vendors cannot afford the staging. So there were options where vendors wanted to save on staging cost, and they initially went for the auction, but then with the staging cost and everything, they decided to sell it pre-auction as well after one open home only. And that's how we said, okay, we don't need to have a staging because we know the true property value. Staging is where you decorate and make the property look really nice before the auction so that people really like and overpay for the property. But in this case, we said to the vendor, we are happy to pay the market value, and they were willing to sell the property to us without, so that they can save on the staging cost of which was around 15 grand for them. So that was a big saving for them as well. So these are the things which can really help you buy properties even pre-auction. Another important thing, make sure you do your own independent building and pest inspection if the selling agent allows you to do that. And you do it in the first week of the property going online. If you really like the property, you have done your numbers, you know the true market value, get your own building and pest done. Yes, you will spend $700-800 maybe, but it is worth it because you have your independent report. And now based on that, you know if the property has any issues or not, and you can adjust the property value accordingly. And then you are really confident, and you're also giving the impression and the trust to the selling agent and the vendor that you are doing your own building and pest, which means you're a really serious buyer. And that's what they want to see. Remember that they are 10 times more emotional than yourself when they're selling their property, right? So once you have done all of this, now let's say you've done all the prep. Let's say the vendor still wants to go to the auction, which is perfectly okay. Here comes the auction day. Now, when you come to the auction day, you have certain things already done. You know why the vendor is looking to sell, what is their motivation. You already know the true market value for the property. You have a good rapport with the real estate agent, so the agent knows you very well. A good thing would be, as part of preparation, that you try to understand who the auctioneer will be, who will auction that property, and try to attend other auctions from the same auctioneer before the target property auction. Let's say the property you want to buy is going on auction on 14th of December by Mr. Smith, auctioneer, right? So a week or two before, on previous Saturdays, that same auctioneer will be doing other auctions for other properties as well. So I always, that's what we do for our clients. We would go over there if it's a new auctioneer that we haven't worked with before, and we will see how they run the auction. Even though that auction is being run at other properties, but it will give us the style as to how they work, what cues are they giving before the hammer actually falls, what are the indications that we can pick on and use it to our advantage for the actual auction day. So that's what you can do as well. That's very, very important, right? Now, once you reach at the auction, make sure you turn up early. If the auction happens, let's say a lot of times before the auction, there's a 30-minute open home as well on a Saturday. So let's say the open home is at from 10 to 10:30 and the auction starts at 10:30. So even though if you have viewed the property before, I would recommend that you turn up at probably 9:45, 9:40 and see who other people are coming. What are they talking about? How much of them really sound keen? Try to pick up on things from other people, what they're saying. A lot of times I will actually stand myself and position myself when I'm bidding for my clients so that I can see all the bidders and the auctioneer in one frame. So I try to distance myself from everyone else so that I can see all of them in one frame, and you will understand it very shortly why I do so. So always be well dressed when going to an auction. I mean, it sounds a bit funny, but to be honest, if you're well dressed, you're presenting yourself well, you come across as a very serious buyer. Okay, so turn up early, make sure that you are dressed well. Make sure that when you once you turn up early, you let the auctioneer know that if the property passes in and you are the highest bidder, then you are willing to negotiate. That's extremely important because a lot of times, if the property passes in, which means it hasn't met the reserve price and there's no one else to bid on it. Let's say the reserve was sitting at 2.4 and the last bid we got was 2.1 and no one else is bidding after that. So the auctioneer will of course not sell it for 2.1. So they will pass in the property. But if the auctioneer already knows that you are ready to negotiate because you have already informed them before the auction started, so they will actually be willing to talk to you. And that is where you have a really good chance to negotiate at that point directly with the vendor. So I will always do that. I will always go to the auctioneer and tell them that, yes, if the property passes in, we are ready to negotiate for our client straight away. Okay. Now, what you're trying to do in an auction is how you bid. That's extremely important. Now, you have to understand what your bidding interval should look like. A lot of times, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you pick up on other bidders' body language. If you make a bid and the other bidder is getting anxious out of it, or they are showing some cues where they're a bit frowned or they're a bit unsettled, that is an impression that they are touching the ceiling of their budget. And one more strong bid can actually knock them off. Okay. So that's what I'll be looking at. I'll be very closely looking at what body language other bidders are showing. At the same time, I will also make sure that my body language is calm and collected. And the way I can be calm and collected is by having all that prep in advance, which I did, because I know the true market value. I know how I'm going to bid, and that is where my body language remains calm and collected, regardless of what is happening. In some auctions, I would also suggest, because it's summers now, you can actually go wearing the sunglasses so that people cannot actually see your eyes as to which way are you looking and which cues are you giving. So the more cues you are trying to get from other bidders, try to hide your own cues so that others cannot take advantage of that. So again, these are some small tips, may sound funny to you, but they actually work, right? So uh, another important thing is when the bidding starts, try not to be the first bidder. I will always try to be the last person to enter into an auction because I want to see everyone. I want to see my competition, and I want to figure out what my competition is like. How fast are they bidding? Are they bidding in increments of 50 grand each? Are they bidding in increments of 10 grand, 5 grand, whatever they are? I will let them play out first, and then if the auction value or if the bidding is still under the true market value that I have established, that is when I enter into the auction. Okay. Another important thing is that once you make a bid, if you're making a bid yourself, make fast bids. Don't think in advance. Once someone comes up with the number, your bid should be coming within 2 seconds. What that does is it actually shakes the confidence of the other bidders because they think that you have infinite budget to work with. Even though if you are bidding for the last dollar and you don't plan to go any further, but bid fast, bid aggressively, and bid with confidence. And you can bid with confidence because now you know what your true market value is. So if it's 2.2 million, as per the example, even if you're hitting at 2.2, bid really hard and immediately. Don't take time. As soon as you take time, you're giving the impression that you're about to back off or you're close to the ceiling of your budget. And as soon as you give that impression, the other party wants to knock you off as well. So these are some of the cues that really work for us, and they've been working for us for the last several years that we have been bidding for our clients. And I'm more than happy for you to apply these as well. Make sure that when you're bidding, don't talk, don't use your phone, don't try to talk to someone, don't try to take instructions from someone. So please put your phone on silent. Also look for other bidders who are talking to their friends or look busy on phone, because that means they are not sure. They probably want to pull out. They're probably putting their last bid in there. So always look out for those people, because suddenly if the bidding is going by 1,000, one party is bidding 1,000, the other party comes up with another 1,000, but you can see that it is just stretching for long. But the other party is really thinking a lot before every $1,000 increase. You can just knock them off by putting a $5,000 bid straight away, and they will just get knocked off in 90% of the times. I can tell you that, right? So that's where you need to make sure that you keep an eye on how they're behaving as well. What we have done is, one of the auctions we were doing, other party was playing with us. They were bringing different numbers. They were coming up with 5,000 increments. They were bringing it down to 2,000. Then they took it up to 8,000. So and that strategy, because we have that experience, so I came up with a strategy on the spot where they came up with the number 9,000 on top, and we just increased our bid by 1,000. And they came back with $5,000 increase for the next bid, and we increased it by another 1,000. So I did that for 3 times, and that gave them the impression that we have infinite budget. We can just keep going, and there's no point for them to compete with us, right? Even though we were very close to our ceiling price, but they thought that because whatever number they come up with, we just bid 1,000 higher than that. So they actually left the auction, and we won that property. So again, these are different things that can be used, right? So again, that was point 2. Sorry, that was point 3. I did not change my slide, but I've shared my point 3 as well. So in summary, the first thing is, guys, make sure that you know the right market value and your budget. Number 2, you should have really good prep before the auction, and that starts in the first week of the listing going live. That's very important. Don't leave it until the last week. That's not the way how you win auctions. You will end up being an emotional buyer, which you don't want to. And the third important thing is arrive early. Be prepared for the auction day. Make sure you have your bidding strategy decided, that you will, let's say, bid in 5,000 increments every time. But if the other party is coming with 2,000 increments, you can switch to 2,000 as well. So be flexible, be adaptive, and look at queues, what other bidders are giving you queues, because they can leave some queues which really, really help you knock them off. So I've shared different strategies with you. I hope you enjoyed them. Just quickly sharing the deal of the week as well. If you have any questions, please. Oh, I have some questions over here. Thanks, Lachlan, for joining us. And the best strategy to participate, Toya. Again, usually the question is that should we start bidding from the beginning and frighten everyone to not compete with you, or be silent until the auction number is close to your number and jump in? Typically, what we have found is the later you enter into the bidding, the better it is. But in some cases, if no one else is making the first bid, you may start the auction as well. That's perfectly fine as well. If there's an awkward silence, no one is bidding, then yes, you can make the first bid as well. But then you make sure that you keep your composure and you follow the process that you had planned for. If you have planned for 5,000 increments, go for it. Make sure you're looking at everyone, how they are behaving after each of your bids. Are they frowning? Are they dropping out? Are they dropping shoulders? So please, that is very important, that you have to keep an eye out on all of them and have your reserve or walkaway price, not a reserve, sorry, but walkaway price in your mind, because that is absolutely critical. You cannot go above your walkaway price, because that is when you end up overpaying. All the strategies we have shared today, please follow them, use them. Thanks, Poya, for your message as well. Good to have you tonight. And feel free, guys, to post your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, your questions. If you're watching a recording, please share them in the comments. I would love to answer them. If you have any feedback, if you want us to cover any particular topic, I would love to entertain that request and cover that in the forthcoming webinars. Before we jump off, this is the deal of the week, which we secured in Adelaide for a client for 1.3 mil, an owner-occupier property, 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom property. That client was really struggling with not knowing. They had a good, decent budget, but they did not know how to select the right suburbs. So they were jumping in different suburbs. They were looking at Modbury Heights. They were going to Salisbury. They were going south. They were going east. They were going in all different suburbs across Adelaide. Plus, their requirements were conflicting. They did not know which schools they were after. So we helped them finalize those suburbs based on their schooling requirements, based on their commute requirements. And once we identified those requirements, they agreed on 2 different suburbs only. So from a big list that they had, and they were looking for a property for the last 6 months. So we helped them narrow down that research, because they were looking in 10 different suburbs and it was not working for them. The prices continued to rise. They were just missing out on auctions because they had no strategy. So once we sat down with them, we finalized 2 suburbs based on their family requirements. In those 2 suburbs, we started scanning properties, had them find the right property that really worked well with their big family. They are a generational family. So 3 different generations actually living together. That's why they needed 5-bedroom, multiple living areas, 3-bathroom at least, and a big backyard as well. So that's the property we found for them. We also bid for them at auction, and we have secured this property for them. So now they are extremely happy. They have already moved into this property. And yeah, so this is just deal of the week. I thought I will share something which is coming from an auction scenario because we are discussing auctions today. So that's the deal of the week, guys. If you want to discuss your personal situation, if you want to discuss how we can help you or how we can guide you in your property journey, if you're looking to create wealth in property, or if you're looking to buy your family home, if you're looking at property to replace your current family income, feel free to book a call. Here's the QR code. Book a call with myself, completely confidential and completely obligation free. And keep safe, guys. I'll see you all next week. Until then, take care.